One moment, it felt like a quiet day around the WNBA. Then suddenly, everything changed. Within just a few hours, three major headlines collided and completely shifted the conversation. Caitlin Clark was back on the practice floor, raising hopes that her return to game action could be just around the corner. Almost at the same time, the Las Vegas Aces made a roster move that few people saw coming, officially bringing in Justė Jocytė. But that decision came with a significant cost, as Chennedy Carter was waived to open a roster spot. Just like that, what looked like separate stories became part of one much bigger discussion. At first, fans were celebrating Clark's progress and wondering what her return could mean for Indiana's upcoming games. But the excitement didn't stay focused on her recovery for long. Attention quickly shifted toward the Fever's front office after many supporters realized the organization had chosen not to keep Jocytė before she landed with one of the league's biggest contenders. Suddenly, people weren't just talking about injuries or roster transactions anymore. They were debating team philosophy, player development, and whether Indiana is making the right decisions while trying to build around one of the most closely watched stars in basketball. And that's where this story became much bigger than a single roster move. For Indiana fans, the most encouraging update of the day came before any roster news started making headlines. Caitlin Clark was back at practice, and that simple sight immediately changed the mood surrounding the team. The protective leg sleeve that had become a symbol of her recovery was gone, and seeing her moving comfortably on the floor gave supporters a reason to believe that her return may not be far away. Clark also shared that she was hopeful about playing in the Fever's upcoming game, a statement that naturally fueled excitement without making any guarantees. Even so, there was just as much caution as there was optimism. Returning to practice is an important step, but it doesn't always mean a player is ready for full game action. With back-to-back games on the schedule, every decision becomes even more important. The Fever know that rushing their franchise star back too soon could create unnecessary risks, while giving her the right opportunity to ease back into competition could benefit both Clark and the team over the long run. That balance between excitement and patience quickly became part of the conversation. But before fans could fully focus on what Clark's return might mean, another wave of breaking news completely redirected the spotlight and turned an encouraging afternoon into one of the busiest days the WNBA has seen in weeks. Just when it seemed the biggest headline of the day was Caitlin Clark working her way back, another move completely changed the conversation. The Las Vegas Aces officially signed Justė Jocytė, a talented young forward many fans believed still had plenty of untapped potential. But adding a new player meant creating room on the roster, and that decision came with an unexpected consequence. The Aces waived Chennedy Carter, ending what turned out to be a very brief chapter with the organization. For a player known as much for her explosive talent as the conversation surrounding her career, the move immediately became one of the league's biggest talking points. From a basketball standpoint, the decision reflected two different priorities. Las Vegas appears to be investing in long-term versatility, believing Jocytė's size, perimeter shooting, and developmental upside fit what the roster could need moving forward. Carter, meanwhile, had struggled to establish a consistent role in the rotation, making her roster spot increasingly difficult to justify despite her undeniable scoring ability. But once the news became public, the discussion quickly expanded beyond basketball. Some fans viewed it as a simple roster calculation, while others saw it as another reminder that talent alone isn't always enough to guarantee security in the WNBA. And as those debates spread across social media, attention quickly shifted once again, this time toward Indiana and the front office that had allowed Jocytė to become available in the first place. As news of Justė Jocytė's move to Las Vegas spread, the spotlight shifted almost entirely to Indiana's front office. It wasn't simply about losing a promising rookie anymore. It was about the reasoning behind the decision. Stephanie White explained that the Fever chose to keep the players already on the roster because they value continuity, experience, and the culture that has been built inside the locker room. From the organization's perspective, maintaining chemistry and trusting veterans to stay ready when called upon was viewed as the better long-term decision than opening a roster spot for another developmental player. That explanation, however, did little to calm the growing frustration among many fans. Supporters who had watched Jocytė's potential believed Indiana had let a valuable stretch shooter walk away at a time when surrounding Caitlin Clark with spacing and young talent feels more important than ever. To them, this wasn't just another roster decision, it was a missed opportunity to strengthen the team's future. Others defended the Fever, arguing that building a successful team requires more than collecting talent and that dependable veterans often provide value that doesn't always appear in the box score. That's where opinions truly began to split. One side saw patience and stability. The other saw hesitation and a franchise passing on upside. And with every new reaction online, the pressure surrounding Indiana's decision only continued to grow. As the debate intensified, much of the attention centered on one part of Stephanie White's explanation. She emphasized that the Fever's decision wasn't based solely on talent or upside. Instead, she pointed to the value of experienced players who understand their roles, contribute to the team's culture, and stay prepared even when their minutes are limited. She also spoke about the potential of the younger players already on the roster, suggesting that the organization remains committed to developing them over time rather than making another roster change. Those comments quickly became the center of competing interpretations. Some listeners heard a coach placing trust in chemistry, stability, and the belief that a successful season depends on more than raw ability. Others interpreted the same remarks as a sign that Indiana may be placing too much emphasis on familiarity instead of maximizing the roster around Caitlin Clark. Neither interpretation changes what White actually said, but they explain why the conversation grew so quickly. A few carefully chosen words about culture, development, and roster continuity ended up representing two very different philosophies for building a winning team. And once those philosophies collided, the discussion was no longer about one player leaving or another player arriving. It became a broader debate about the direction of the Fever and how they plan to compete in the seasons ahead. By this point, it was clear that the conversation had grown far beyond a single roster transaction. Under normal circumstances, a developmental player changing teams might generate a few headlines before quickly fading from the news cycle. But this isn't a normal situation. Every move the Indiana Fever make is now examined through one question: does it help maximize the team's future with Caitlin Clark? That reality has dramatically raised the stakes for even the smallest personnel decisions, turning routine roster management into league-wide talking points. The pressure comes from the expectations that followed Clark into the WNBA. Every signing, every waiver, and every coaching decision is measured against the goal of building a championship-caliber roster around one of the sport's brightest stars. Because of that, fans aren't just evaluating individual players, they're evaluating the organization's long-term vision. Some believe the Fever are taking the patient approach, trusting continuity and internal development to produce results over time. Others believe opportunities to add young talent and shooting should be seized whenever they appear, especially with the league becoming more competitive every season. That's why this debate continues to grow. It's no longer just about who made the roster. It's about whether Indiana's overall strategy will ultimately prove to be the right one as expectations surrounding the franchise continue to climb. As the day comes to a close, it's remarkable how quickly the conversation transformed. It began with encouraging news about Caitlin Clark returning to practice, shifted to the surprising decision by the Las Vegas Aces to waive Chennedy Carter while adding Justė Jocytė, and ultimately landed on an even bigger discussion about the direction of the Indiana Fever. Three separate headlines became one connected storyline, and each development changed the way fans viewed the others. What makes this story so compelling is that none of it has a definitive ending yet. Clark is still working toward a full return, and only time will reveal how quickly she gets back into game rhythm. Carter's next opportunity remains uncertain, while the Aces will now see what Jocytė can contribute in a new environment. Meanwhile, Indiana's decision will continue to be judged as the season unfolds, especially if future roster moves, or on-court results, reshape the narrative once again. For now, the headlines may have settled, but the debate certainly hasn't. As more games are played and more decisions are made, this is one storyline that feels far from over, with every new chapter likely to bring another wave of reactions across the WNBA.